In a desolate forest in the northern part of the mystic world, 4 men combined their efforts to throw the sack they were carrying onto the ground, creating a loud bang. "Sir, why don't we take advantage of the fact that she's not dead, and let's enjoy her for a while. Although her face is ugly, she's still young," a man with a wraith-like appearance said with pure lust written all over his face. When the rest of the men heard that, their eyes lit up, and they said to their leader, "We were only told to kill and throw the body away. It wasn't specified how she was supposed to die." Right. This woman comes from the most prominent family in the land. If it wasn't for the fact that she's crazy, how could this trash be in our presence? The leader was a burly man. Upon hearing their words, he tore the sack open and walked toward the unconscious girl while rubbing his hands together with sinister glee. His every motion signified what he planned to do. Pain. Myra Watt felt like her head was going to explode. She was clearly dead, yet how could she still feel agony? Moreover, a flood of memories suddenly flashed in her head for no reason. Myra was kicked out of her family because her physique was not well built and couldn't cultivate. She was a pitiful individual who even had to look at the faces of her subordinates while living under someone else's roof. Weak, humiliated, infatuated, and her face ruined? She tried everything possible to make up for it, yet she'd still been killed. Could you possibly be more useless? Suddenly, the young woman's eyes opened when the man walked toward her. A sharp gaze shot out like a poisoned knife, sending chills through the interloper's body. Then, a malevolent expression flitted across her face, causing his hair to stand on end. The burly man was startled, but when he thought about the woman's useless and weak character, he felt reassured and said, "Stupid woman, if you do everything I say, I might even let you feel comfortable. If you want to resist, don't blame us for hurting you." Myra had always been timid. With just a few casual words, he could scare her to the point of being obedient. This had already been practiced countless times by the Rogers servants. It definitely had an effect. "You're asking for it." Myra parted her thin lips as her cold words reverberated in the air. The towering man was stunned as he only saw a shadow flash in front of him. Suddenly, his wrist was broken. The broken bones pierced his skin, and white bones and blood could be vividly seen. Myra sneered and efficiently broke his neck. The man's eyes were still wide open as he fell to the ground, almost as if he couldn't figure out how a disabled individual could kill a rank 2 warrior like him. "How dare you kill our commander? You must have a death wish." When the spirit demons bellowed and rushed toward her, Myra's feet moved like lightning, and she appeared behind them. Crack! Plop! A warrior fell onto the ground like a broken sack. His neck and body were in a strange, grotesque posture. The remaining 2 men, with fear in their eyes, crumpled on the ground and fervently begged, "My lady, please spare our lives. As noble warriors, we do not wish to harm you further. Please forgive us." "Tell me who sent you, and I'll consider letting you go," Myra coldly said as she stood in front of them. "It's Miss Rogers. We promise we're leaving now." After the 2 of them finished speaking, they rushed toward the edge of the forest, fearful that Myra would change her mind a second later. With two terrifying sounds, two tree branches pierced through their necks simultaneously. Their eyes widened as they fell forward with their bodies straightened. Someone who has angered me and lived to tell of it has yet to exist, said Myra, clapping her hands. That's right. When she woke up, her body was reincarnated and she reclaimed her former self. She was a descendant of an ancient martial arts family and was now highly proficient. Myra's medical skills were also superb, and her talent was exceptional. She was capable of bullying others. How on earth could others bully her? And after digesting her memories, each humiliation pierced her aching heart. This was something that her uncle couldn't tolerate. Myra was originally a young woman of the Great Hudson Empire's most illustrious family, the Watt family. When she was born, they tested her spirit essence and discovered that she was a genius who only appeared once every 10,000 years. However, Myra's former body couldn't produce even the slightest amount of spiritual energy for some reason. The general of the Watt family was so infuriated with Myra's inferior powers that he chased her out of the Watt family when she was only 7 years old. A less prominent family compared to the Watt family adopted and took Myra in, the Hudson family and the Rogers family. They had also engaged her in hopes that one day a miracle would happen to her and change the future of their family. Myra was hopelessly in love with the young man. She was deeply grateful to the Rogers family, but she didn't know that she was being used. Unfortunately, Myra was thrown into the wilderness when she lost her value. After combing through her memories, aside from being angry due to the betrayal, Myra also discovered something that had been buried deep in her subconscious. Others weren't aware, but Myra knew that she was a genius, and her cultivation speed was very fast. However, the strange thing was that this spiritual energy came and went even faster and disappeared without a trace before she could feel it. Since she was so timid, she didn't tell anyone else. That was why people mistook her for someone who couldn't cultivate. Looks like this body isn't so simple. I need to study it carefully. Once I've mastered my body, maybe I'll be able to turn the tables? As Myra contemplated this matter, she sat cross-legged on the ground and cultivated according to the method in her former body's memory, completely disregarding the fact that there were still several corpses on the ground. Soon enough, Myra had trained for an entire morning and still hadn't managed to harness a single bit of spirit energy. Relying on her strong perception, she discovered all of the spirit energy was flowing toward the white jade ring on her finger. She stopped the process and carefully examined the ring. This was a simple ring that her mother had left her, so it shouldn't be a problem. As a result, she once again probed the ring with her spiritual force. The ring was empty, but the most unusual thing was the golden stripes adorning it. Her mother gave it to her when she was 5, and even signed a contract with her, so she still felt the ring absorbing her spiritual energy. With a thought, she removed the ring and held it in her palm. It seemed that the ring had caused a crack to appear in her spiritual power, which slowly proceeded to open. She saw a flash of white light, and a small beast appeared in front of her. A palm-sized creature appeared, blue, with a big head and a small body. It looked a bit like a shaved dog, but its forelimbs had evolved quite well. What are you? Myra asked, picking up the little thing and staring at it with a face full of disdain. This little thing had absorbed Myra's spiritual energy in her previous body for many years, so she felt it was better to stay as far away as possible. She didn't want her current spiritual energy to be sucked away as well. I'm not a thing. I'm a god beast. A god beast. The little beast jumped around angrily on her palm. However, its voice was too soft and squeaky, and no matter how it shouted, it sounded adorable. Don't you dare bully me simply because I transmigrated. Even if I didn't recognize any divine beast, I still wouldn't be as young as you. Myra snorted. I'll scare you to death when I become bigger. The little beast argued while refusing to accept defeat. Myra laughed and said, Then transform into me. I'll believe you if I grow up. Then give me the energy to eat. I can transform once I absorb energy. To her surprise, the small beast was not only cranky, but also wanted benefits. Even if Myra was newly reincarnated, she had heard that the higher the intelligence of a spirit beast, the higher their level. Seeing that this little thing's intelligence was even higher than newborn babies, it couldn't be a high-ranking spirit beast. She frowned, wondering if she should stay. If she didn't and the tiny creature was a treasure, it would be a major loss for her. Keep it, and it'll absorb its own energy every day, but it's deadly. Thinking this, she rubbed her forehead in distress, but she suddenly thought of something. It was very important, but it had been forgotten for too long. In her hazy memories, she remembered living with her mother until the age of 5. One night, her mother suddenly handed her a jade slip and hurriedly told her to open it only when she learned to cultivate. Otherwise, it would bring disaster upon her. She casually placed the jade slip away and asked her mother what had happened. Her mother smiled as she caressed her head. She didn't say anything and disappeared that night and never returned. As Myra thought about this, she hurriedly rummaged through the spatial ring in her hand. In a corner neglected for 15 years, she found the jade scroll. Instinctively, she released a tiny bit of spiritual energy from her body. Then Myra felt an intense light flashing and piercing between her eyebrows. Following the stinging pain, a wealth of information began to appear in her mind. A message from her mother was the first to appear. My little princess, I'm pleased that you were able to access the words I left behind. First, congratulations on hatching the devouring beast with your spirit energy. After hatching, it will no longer absorb your spirit energy, and it will also make your future cultivation much easier. However, you must remember not to let anyone else know, or else it will invite a fatal disaster. Second, your physique isn't that of a genius battlemaster, as they claim, but an important thing is to protect yourself. Third, as your mother, I left a cultivation technique that will be suitable for you. With it, you can cultivate your energy properly. Finally, my precious child, you are my primary concern in this world. You must take good care of yourself, and I will always think of you." This was a mother's letter, and every word was closely related to Myra's safety. Myra sighed. After thinking about the element body that her mother mentioned, she was so shocked that her mouth was hanging wide open. According to Myra's previous body's 20 years of memories, she had some understanding of the cultivation methods of this world. This was a world where the strong were respected, and the most common profession was that of the battle master. The threshold was low, and as long as one's body had no problems, one could control warrior power. The rarer ones were the soul masters. Although their killing power was strong, their mental and physical requirements were extremely high. Thus, their status was relatively higher. There were also a group of alchemists who were more talented and had very high requirements in terms of spiritual force and elemental affinity. The element bodies were the parties that the heavens favored the most. Their bodies were natural elemental containers. As long as they had the appropriate cultivation technique, they would have the battle master's unswerving determination and strong attack power. I heard that in the entire continent's tens of thousands of years of history, there have only been 2 records of these powerful individuals. These 2 were legendary figures who could shake the world and could endanger the world as a whole. However, no matter how rare the element body was, there were definitely not only 2 of them. The rest of them either died because they were assassinated before they rose to prominence, or because they could not afford the resources. To sum it up, this physique had unlimited potential. The body was strong, and the combat process was extremely high. However, growing up required too many resources, and not everyone could easily afford them. Truly, no matter what our background is, we shall all face hardships throughout our days, and all of our days are numbered. Myra shook her head. Then she went to check on the spatial ring. Just as her mind was wandering, she heard a soft woof sound and felt her load lighten. Turning her head, she saw that the jade slip, having slipped from her grasp, had already been caught in the devouring beast's mouth. "You can't eat that. Be good and give it to me," Myra said in a coaxing tone. Right now, she felt that her previous body had used up a lot of spirit energy and could only hatch trouble. Not only did she not have the slightest bit of fighting strength, but she only knew how to cause trouble. Ah! A moment later, Myra saw the devouring beast swallow the jade slip in one gulp before resting comfortably on her palm. Myra immediately went berserk. That was something her mother had left her. Although she had already read the information and it was useless, she didn't want it to be eaten. Just when she was about to go ballistic, she suddenly felt a surge of energy appear out of nowhere, coursing through her limbs and bones. She didn't have time to analyze the reason. She immediately sat down to meditate by the stream and opened her eyes. Her eyes were filled with ecstasy. Because the power was significant, Myra ascended directly from nothing to a level 1 warrior. Even if she were a genius, she would need at least a month to cultivate her current level. And now, She had leveled up without accomplishing anything whatsoever. Could you help me level up by eating something? Myra brought the small devouring beast in front of her, imploring the mystical creature with her beautiful eyes. I don't know about that. In any case, I will give you half of the energy when I eat. The devouring beast reluctantly replied when she said this. Then you can digest anything? Myra was even more concerned about this issue. When the little beast heard Myra question it, it immediately stood up and flaunted its own abilities. Of course, my devouring beast name didn't appear out of nowhere. I can absorb anything, as long as it's something with energy. That means other people rely on elixirs to live, but I can use anything for that. Isn't that defying heaven? Myra was ecstatic. The devouring beast jumped onto her shoulder to sleep, expressing its unwillingness to be associated with the bumpkin. Briefly swelling with joy, Myra became silent again. After thinking carefully, she realized that her mother had done this for her own good. If she didn't strengthen her powerful heart, she wouldn't be able to carry on. Sure, Myra's original body had simply been too weak, and she died before the devouring beast could hatch. She sighed, just as she was about to enter the city and find a place to comb through the cultivation technique left behind by Myra's mother. She heard a girl's gentle voice on the official road ahead. Where are you going, my lord? Why don't we travel together? As soon as she looked up, she saw a very beautiful woman gracefully walking toward a man. She followed her gaze and only saw a flash of light before her eyes, causing her to fall into a daze for a moment. The man had thick black hair tied up in a charcoal jade crown. He wore an ink-black robe, and the complex dark golden patterns glimmered in the sunlight, giving him an indescribably noble air. However, what was more eye-catching than his clothing was his appearance. His skin was like the first snow of winter, and his sword-like eyebrows slanted upward, filled with a sharp aura. His nose was straight like a pine tree, and his eyes were the color of jade. This perfect and heavenly face, with the eyes under the thick eyelashes slightly raised, was bestowed with a brand new life, a rare beauty. A person like that, just standing there casually, made people feel like they had stolen a glimpse of the sun's glory. However, his obsidian eyes flashed with an extremely cold glimmer, staring at a person with a bone-piercing chill. Even with Myra's endurance, she couldn't help but feel a chill in her heart, sighing, "Nice skin." Then she proceeded forward. If she wanted to leave the forest, she could only walk on the official road. Thus she got closer and closer to the beautiful man. "Piss off," spat the beautiful man, evil energy spilling from his red lips. Then Myra waved her wide sleeves at the lady who had tried to hit her. A powerful spirit force was released and caused everyone to feel terrified. The woman was sent flying like a rag doll. Her body flew through the air in a parabola before smashing right in front of Myra. Myra raised her eyebrows and instinctively tried to check on the woman, only to find that she was no longer breathing. Myra stood up in a rage. "What's wrong with you? Wasn't she just talking to you? If you're so terrified of people, don't step foot outside." Instinctively, she knew that she wasn't a soft-hearted person, but killing people for no reason was simply reprehensible. The man looked at her, a cold light flashing through his dark eyes. "Any woman within 3 feet of me will die." "I said you." Myra couldn't finish her words. She considered the distance between the two of them, and her pupils dilated. But it was too late. She had only taken 2 steps back when she saw a black shadow fly past her eyes. Immediately, she felt as if her neck was being gripped by 5 steel bars. Furthermore, the bars were still tightening. The man was so close to her that she could clearly see the freezing emptiness in his soulless eyes. He could easily take someone's life, but his expression didn't change at all. He was as calm as if he was eating and drinking. The appearance of a god with the dark heart of the devil. Great Lord, did you think he wasn't angry? Myra did not care about the consequences at that very moment, and shoved her right middle finger and index finger straight at the man's eyes. This time she used all her strength. As long as she hit her target, he would definitely lose his sight. When the man saw that Myra was able to react in such a short time, he raised his eyebrows and raised a hand to forcefully toss her aside, having spotted her weakness. At this point, the pain in Myra's neck became even more intense. Her already weak body had lost all of its strength, and her heart had become ice cold. She could already feel the spiritual energy fluctuations coming from the man. If he were to attack again, she would really end up seeing the gates of hell. Damn! How could someone from another world save humanity? She was here minding her own business. Myra remembered this perverted man. If she met him in her next life, she would definitely teach him a lesson. However, just as she was intently observing the man's face with the intention to remember him and take revenge in her next life, she suddenly realized that the man's hand had lost all of its strength. He frowned. The depth of his eyes seemed to have been frozen for eternity, and a touch of pain surfaced. His entire body was trembling. Myra took a deep cleansing breath. Seeing the man's face filled with pain, his face was pale and his entire body was trembling, most likely due to some chronic disease or poison outbreak. Just as she was thinking about how she was going to use this opportunity to escape, she suddenly felt the man staring at her with a weird gaze. Then, he stretched out his other hand and touched her forehead. With his cold fingers, he stroked her face, his fingers like a painter's brush, carefully tracing every part of her face. When he touched the scar on her face, his eyebrows twitched and killing intent surfaced in his dark eyes. "You freak! Let me go!" Myra screamed while she struggled. She was used to being harassed by others. Even if the person in front of her was a beautiful man who would lose his mind if she looked at him for more than 3 seconds. The man's hazy gaze once again became icy cold. His hand circled around her neck and stuck on the back of her neck. With a bit of force, he pushed her petite body into his embrace. His weak eyes closed and opened, but his body didn't tremble. It was as though Myra represented a potent medicine to him. "Damn. Do you want to be my mother?" Easy to bully. Right? Myra's hair stood on end after her throat regained its freedom, but she realized in despair that even if she used all of her strength, she couldn't make him budge 1 inch. "I'll remember this, I swear to you, and when I get the chance, I'll definitely teach you a lesson." Myra was so angry that she could only curse. However, she soon felt that her strength was diminishing. Eventually, before she fell, she managed to push the man away. Unfortunately, her body was too thin and small. With this push, he actually fell down on top of her. The man was pressing down on her body, nuzzling her nose. She felt ashamed and angry at the same time. She thought that the man was doing it on purpose, but upon closer inspection, he had fainted. His skin was sickly pale, and his brows were slightly furrowed. His unmatched elegance was tinged with a hint of emaciation, as if he'd fallen ill. Myra looked carefully and was disappointed again. "Unbelievable!" Myra exclaimed, sitting up and gasping for breath. If something is this wrong with him, then there must be a demon involved. If a man looks perfect, then there's a high chance that he's a demon. The man lay on the grass, still unconscious. He's quite sick. Myra gently touched his pulse and looked at him with a face full of unrepentant glee. Right now, she really wanted to get up and give him a slap, or even better, kill him immediately. She raised her hand and lowered it. She didn't have the guts. It was clear from a glance that this man was extremely powerful and quite respectable in terms of status. If she were to harm him now, she would definitely be the one in trouble. "Consider yourself lucky. Even if I don't kill you, I will not let you get away with this." Myra muttered as she started rummaging through his pockets to see if there were any valuables that could be looted. What she lacked the most right now was money. If she could reap a small reward from this unfortunate encounter, then her anger would be much appeased. But she was disappointed to find that he had nothing on him except for a black jade, dragon mark ring on the middle finger of his right hand. Before she could recover from her anger, she reached out for the ring and snorted. "If I don't take it, then meeting you was useless. And sorry, but that just won't do."